coroner's inquest takes place tomorrow to look into another Metro shooting.
Trevon Cole's family says Metro had the wrong man.
The frustration mounts for the family.
In the summer of 2010, two controversial police shootings had the Las Vegas community buzzing.
In two of the cases, lives were taken.
Las Vegas Metro Police Sheriff Doug Gillespie and other high-ranking Metro officials were quick to respond to community outrage over the shootings.
What people in Las Vegas need to know is that this circus, this cop-clearing circus that they call a coroner's inquest process, is now making Las Vegas the laughing stock of the nation.
These two shootings prompted a change to the inquest system, but left an underlying culture in which police are quick to use deadly force untouched.
We are truly a 24/7 town, and I think it makes for, statistically, a city that you're going to have more police shootings than a lot of other cities.
In an investigation unprecedented in scope, the Review Journal analyzed all 300-plus shootings by Metro since 1990. The paper found that while dozens of shootings were undeniably justified, many others could have been avoided through better training, clearer policies, and a department willing to discipline problem officers.
The shootings that have taken place here, for the vast majority, have been life or death situations where that decision had to be made and had to be made fast.
Why has the system never questioned whether Trevon Cole or Eric Scott's deaths could have been prevented? And what of the other 100-plus fatal shootings since 1990?
Officer Brian Yant, now on paid administrative leave for firing that deadly shot, killed Cole, his third OIS in 10 years on the force.
Sources say Cole did not have a weapon, but the movement was threatening enough in itself that the detective was forced to fire one shot. However, all of that...
On June 11, 2010, Metro Narcotics Officer Brian Yant served a search warrant on small-time marijuana dealer Trevon Cole. Minutes after entering the apartment, Cole lay slumped next to the toilet, dead from a gunshot wound to the head.
And how can you sit there and not hear everything that was said, but not know this is not right? What happened is not right.
That shooting was unanimously ruled justified at a coroner's inquest. But a month later, Eric Scott was shot and killed by Metro.
New accounts are coming out about what really led up to Saturday's deadly Costco shooting.
And though his case would draw much public attention, it was the shooting of Trevon Cole that had many officers asking questions of their own.
Yeah, I've talked to dozens of cops that felt it was a horrible shooting.
Yeah.
And aren't satisfied with the consequences to this day. And, it's embarrassing.
From the beginning, the execution of the search warrant was flawed. Yant used information from the wrong Trevon Cole, a man not only with a longer criminal history, but a different physical description.
At the execution of the search warrant on June 11th, Metro had 11 people there. Of those 11 people, half were not certified to conduct a search warrant execution.
Brian Yant followed them in and ended up going into this pitch black apartment with a gun that didn't have a flashlight that worked. He felt there was enough lighting in there. Other detectives who were involved in the raid said there was not.
When they kicked open the door, the first thing they saw was a baby's bassinet. Trevon had run into the bathroom and began flushing what little marijuana he had with him. Sergeant Harney goes into the bedroom. Yant follows in after Harney. Harney tells him to go into the bathroom. He kicks open the door and shoots Trevon Cole in the head.
After the inquest, Yant was taken off the street and given a desk job.
Creating the situation where you have 11 people going into a 600 square foot, one bedroom apartment with breaking down doors and knocking down windows and kicking in the bathroom door so hard there's a hole in there creates a very frantic and frenetic pace of events, as the police call it, dynamic. So to begin with, it was excessive in the way that the raid was planned.
A panel of jurors, if you will, coroner's inquest jurors, heard the evidence, saw the evidence, reviewed the evidence, and they believed that the shooting was justified. So I think to call it an embarrassment is wrong.
I think it could have been prevented if Trevon Cole would have done what was asked of him, number one. I mean, we could speculate all day long what would happen if we didn't serve the warrant. Okay, the reality is we did serve the warrant. And then based on that search warrant service, we've modified some of our department policies.
The Yant shooting is one of many cases analyzed during a year-long investigation of officer-involved shootings in Las Vegas. The newspaper found a police department that does little to weed out problem cops and is slow at best to adopt policies and procedures that protect both its own officers and the citizens they serve.
Well, I think people that broadly make statements that we don't hold our employees accountable need to take a hard look at how we do hold our people accountable. The standards are very high, and people get fired from doing things at a law enforcement entity that they would not at others.
The Use of Force Board has cleared 97% of officers, and there has never been a ruling against an officer involved in a fatal shooting. After analyzing the data for more than 2 decades of police shootings in the Valley, reporters found trends that highlight certain actions leading to more police shootings.
I think the shootings that we determined were avoidable are ones that you follow a similar pattern. Foot pursuits of suspects who may have not been committing a felony offense, which is the criterion for engaging in a foot pursuit of a suspect.
I think Gillespie acknowledges that he has officers who are hard charging, and the idea is to rein them back a bit, not run into situations that might endanger themselves or other people.
Another thing that we found troubling was that close to 20% of all shootings were into vehicles. In many cases, those vehicles were moving, which raised the question of whether officers had put themselves in a position where they were in the path of the moving vehicle, leaving them no choice but to shoot at it, when perhaps sidestepping the vehicle earlier in the confrontation may have avoided the need for deadly force.
And some of the instances that you guys are talking about caused us concern, like the number of cars we were shooting at. Okay, and like the number of officers that we had that were getting involved in armed encounters that had been in foot pursuits. So what do? Well, you look at your policies, you look at your procedures, training, tactics and stuff, and then you adapt, modify, and change.
If you look at other departments that have been successful in reducing the number of shootings, that's what they've employed policies that tackle or basically prevent shootings from happening in the first place.
In comparison with 15 other major urban police agencies from the years 2001 to 2010, Las Vegas ranks high in the number of police-involved shootings.
What we did was fairly unique. There hasn't really been this kind of comparison before, and our methodology consisted of looking at population size, but also at violent crime rate, to do an apples-to-apples comparison of police departments. And what we found of the departments who supplied us with data, and there were quite a few, that Las Vegas had a comparatively higher rate than other departments, top 3 of the 15 or so departments that we looked at.
It's still important for the police to fully explain these types of numbers, because I think that without that explanation, without the tie to the community, even if there's some issues in terms of crime in those communities, the community is going to feel like, you know what, we're just getting shot at, we're getting shot and killed, and no one's responding to us and no one's telling us why this is the case, and it shouldn't be the case.
The sheriff acknowledged that the department needs change. But when it comes to shootings, Gillespie said his officers are limited by the actions of the suspects.
If Trevon Cole and the occupants of that apartment would have done what the officers had asked them to do, Trevon Cole would be alive today.